posted a video earlier about how I'm going to be moving back to a family home for a few months to get back on my feet. Because
Hey friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we'll be talking about adult children are moving back in with their parents. And no, it's not because they're lazy or lacking ambition. It's often because the cost of living is simply out of control. So I put the videos together so that you enjoy and learn. I'll be back to share my 2 cents.
7 months ago, at the age of 31, I moved back in with my parents. And it was the best decision I could have ever made for myself. And I want to spend today telling you why. And by the way, if you don't know me, my name is Courtney. And I talk a lot about big sister advice, living a life pretty unconventional, yada yada. Last time I was really posting, I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was living on my own with my 2 beautiful dogs. However, in July of 2023, I decided not to renew my lease and to move from Charlotte, North Carolina into my mom's house in Columbia, South Carolina. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt a lot of shame about it. One, because like at my big age, why am I living at home essentially, even though I'm not from Columbia? Like, why am I moving in with my parents? But here's why it was absolutely the right decision for me. The biggest reason being financial. When I had first moved to Charlotte back in 2012, I had accumulated a lot of consumer debt and I just could not seem to get financially straight living on my own. So moving home allowed me to save a lot of money, pay off almost every single dollar that I accumulated in Charlotte of my consumer debt, and come up with a really good financial plan in order to never be upside down like this again. Moving home also allowed me to level set, like honestly level set with myself, because I wasn't feeling Charlotte like I thought I would be feeling it. And I knew that I wanted to move like somewhere else, but I didn't necessarily know where I wanted to move. When I had first moved to Charlotte, I was in the middle of going back into finance and transitioning fully into marketing, or even doing financial marketing. I really wasn't set on a certain field. But after being at my job for almost 2 years, I decided that marketing is totally where I want to be in, and it doesn't have to be the financial industry. So I then had to make a shift and decide where I was going to move that was more beneficial to general marketing, or had more general marketing opportunities, and not just like a lot of marketing opportunities in the financial industry, if you get my drift. So by moving home and saving those funds, I got more opportunities to travel and really kind of figure out where I wanted to move next, and even do some trial runs, like stay in a city for a couple of days or for a week so I can figure out where my next spot was going to be. And I'm not gonna lie, it has been mentally hard on your girl in the last few months moving home, because you don't feel like you're necessarily moving forward. You feel like you're standing still, if not going backwards. I had never really had to be still before, because even in COVID, I was moving around. I was doing things. Like, I lived in Florida, let's be real. But when I tell you, I think this was by far one of the best decisions I could have made, because financially, I was able to fully get back on my feet. Like, my credit score has not been this high in at least 6 years. I decided on where to move next, and I signed my lease 2 months ago, and I'll be moving into my new place very soon. I've been literally drawn closer in faith because I had to lean on God during these times. Because basically God told me to sit still, and I'm someone that has never sat still a day in her life. So learning how to be disciplined and be obedient and be still by far was one of the greatest takeaways that I've learned in this time of waiting, essentially, for the next move and for the next adventure. And I feel like I came back to me, finally came back into myself. I gave up TikTok for Lent, fully gave it up. Not even watching it. I took it off my phone. I stopped consuming because I realized in this time of waiting, I was consuming way more content than I was creating. And I think I now achieved a really good balance between consuming TikTok and also getting back into creating again. Like, now, all I want to do is create. Now, I fully understand that I am incredibly privileged to have been able to move back home. I have a job that's fully remote, and my mom and I get along very well. However, if you are an adult and you are privileged enough to have the opportunity and the option, don't write it off because of your ego. If I would have just followed my ego, I would literally be in financial ruin. Because I moved home for these last, 9 months. I'm thinking it was 7, but it was really 9. I now get to live in my dream city in a dream neighborhood, and, glory to God. But now I am not nearly as financially strapped. In fact, I'm in a really good financial situation for the first time in my adult life. So don't write it off. If you have the opportunity and you feel like you need to, go ahead and do it. All right, I'm out. Moving vlog.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I have to move back home. I haven't lived at home in over 12 years, and it's the last thing I thought I would ever have to do. I have to be out of my apartment by the end of the month, and there's nothing I hate more than moving. Everything has gotten so expensive. The rent increases have been ridiculous. Just in general, I hate moving. The whole process of looking for apartments, if I find something, packing up, not having my stuff when I need it. I don't do well in messy environments. Moving takes up so much of your energy, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way. I feel like it becomes this milestone and makes me reflect on where I am in life and from where I'm standing. I did not think that this is where I'd be at this stage in life. Unfortunately, if I don't find something soon, I think home is gonna be home again. I don't know if anyone else is going through this stage, but yeah, that's where my life is right now.
Okay, cool. So I'm having to move out of my house because I can't afford rent. So I'm moving into my parents' property. But one time I couldn't afford rent either, and I was driving down the highway to try and go get help from social services, and the hood of my car smashed into my windshield and shattered it. So I pulled over, and this lady behind me pulled over and comes out. Turns out I happen to know her, so she helps me get to the social services office, and I'm calling my dad, and he's like out of state or out of town. And as I'm there, this other lady overhears me, and she's like, I'll call AAA and have them tow your car for free. What's your address? So they gave me a ride home, towed my car for free. A couple of days later, my friends called me, and they're like, hey, let's go out. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't go out. I can't even get to work. My car is completely wrecked. The windshield's wrecked. I can't even make rent. I don't know how I'm going to fix this, so sorry, guys. And they're like, hey, you know what? We just ran into some cash, and we want to help you. So they paid for my car, they got me a rental, and they paid for rent for me that month. And you want to know something? If the hood of my car hadn't flown up and shattered my windshield, none of that would have happened. I wouldn't have gotten any help, and I probably wouldn't have been able to pay rent that month because I never would have told them that, hey, I can't pay rent. Sorry, I can't go out. I'd have been like, sure, let's go out. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, you know what? Me moving into my parents' house at 30 is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to me. It feels like right now I'm pulling over on the side of the road with a shattered windshield. My life sucks, but you know what? Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. It doesn't matter. We're going to be fine. We're all going to be fine.
Can we normalize moving back with your parents in like your 20s and even 30s? Like, it is hard out here for us. Everything is so expensive. Rent is so expensive. My husband and I moved out on our own for the first time after getting married. And after a year, we decided to move back in with my dad and save up to hopefully buy a house. Obviously not anytime soon, and obviously not in Southern California because interest rates are way too high and everything is just way too expensive right now. But I think moving back in with your parents in your 20s, even 30s, is a lot more common than people think. I don't think anyone should be ashamed. I moved back in with my parents like a month ago after being on my own for like a year and a half. And at first, I was super depressed about it because I'm losing my freedom and it feels like such a loser thing to do. But now I don't have any bills to pay. And I actually feel very free. I feel quite free. Yesterday, my mom made me breakfast, baby, and I didn't have to do anything. I feel really good. I feel really good. The whole independent woman thing, it was cute. It was cute while it was cute, but I'm having a lot better time not having to pay rent every month, you know? Nothing is my responsibility anymore. And that...
I don't think there's anything wrong with adults living with their parents. Matter of fact, I feel
still living at home. This life shit is hard, it's expensive, and it's ghetto. I can't stand the way people try to make it seem like, oh, you're past your teenage years and you're still living at home. Shit, yes. These jobs don't pay good enough to even afford a 1-bed, 1-bath. And that's not including every single other bill and tab you have to pay. We're basically paying to breathe at this point. A lot of these jobs want you to be educated, and then even when you are educated, they still pay you some bullshit amount. Even though some young people, some 20, 21-year-olds, even though some of them may be well off financially, that's literally not the case for most people that age. A lot of us are struggling and trying to still find our identities. So if you think that we're going to be financially stable by the age of 20, you are absolutely ludicrous. Life doesn't get easier. You just learn how to understand things better.
baby, that video went viral and they drug me across every single platform. And some of y'all may be like, well, Kaylin, what did you say wrong? Well, shit, I don't know. People dissected that video and everything I had on in it. People was talking about, oh, she talking about this, but she wearing a Gucci bonnet. When have y'all ever went into Gucci and seen Gucci selling bonnets? I bought that bonnet off TikTok for like $12. Oh, maybe she can't afford to do this because she be going to the nail shop. Y'all see she got her nails done. Those nails were press-on nails that were like $10 from Walmart. Wow, you know, them $10 nails and that $12 bonnet really did put a halt on my progress in getting a house or an apartment or a car, paying this bill or paying that bill. Be for real. And now I'm bringing that conversation right back around. That video was before having 2 dozen eggs was a flex. That video was before gas prices shooting up. That video was before rent being increased. Since I made that video, things have gotten more expensive. Things got more expensive, but ain't nobody being paid more. Let's be for real. Say y'all expected 20-year-olds to have their own shit. They own place to live, they own car, this, that, and the third. For the most part, we all graduate when we're like 17 or 18. If we're going to go and get an education that's going to pay well, we're going to have to be in school for a few years. That goes past the age of 20. Please tell me how that's realistic. You have a lot of adults that are even past the age of 20 still at home. Because at the end of the day, age does not really matter. It's hard for everybody. I do not judge people who stay at home. I don't care if they're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Not everybody is in a situation or predicament to where they can afford to pay certain things. And it's not to say that all of these people are lazy and have no ambition, because truth be told, you don't know what these people got. These people could be sitting on $200,000 and you don't even know that. At the end of the day, what somebody else chooses to do is not your damn business. Why is somebody else's living situation such a bother to you? I said what I said back then, and I said what I said now. I don't think there's anything wrong with adults living with their parents.
I've been meaning to stitch this video because I got a lot to say about it. The first thing I want to say, which is the most important part, which is don't ever let somebody tell you what's best for you. Half of these people ain't got it together. So to let them dictate what works best for you, what's going to put you in the best position, you better not listen to nothing that they got to say. If you like staying at home with your parents want you there, y'all don't have any issues, why exactly would you leave to prove a point to these people? Who are these people? These people mean nothing. Whether or not the stuff they say is good or bad, they mean nothing. The only person's best interest you should be looking out for is yourself. And only you know what that looked like for you. I'm going to tell you just like this. I didn't leave my mom and daddy until I wanted to, until it was time. Until I felt it was time. And I wasn't going to let nobody else dictate that or tell me when it was time. I was friends with these girls back in the day when we graduated high school. And I ended up getting a really good job straight out of high school. And I was making good money for it at that time. And everybody else I knew was working at like fast food restaurants or just getting, not good money. And I was still staying at home with my mama. But the girls that I knew, a lot of them was starting to move out. But they wasn't moving out because they wanted to move out. They was moving out because they had to. Their parents wasn't going to let them stay at home. But, they would make it seem as if they moved out because they wanted to. And it wasn't like when they moved out into these nice areas. They moved out into the hood. You think that I'm going to leave my mama and daddy to go out and end up somewhere in the hood just to prove a point to somebody that I can move out? When I got this bedroom here and I got everything I need and my parents love me and we got a good relationship, you think I'm going to move out to prove something to you? My parents allowed me to stay at that house rent free, and the only condition was that I stack and save my money. And so when the time came and I was ready to move out and I got my first apartment, I was able to go in and fully furnish it. I had money stacked up in the bank for a rainy day. And it was a good thing I did because I ended up getting laid off while I was in that apartment. But because I had over 12 months of rent payment in the bank, I ain't had no issues because it took me 6 months to find another job. But I was good because I had that money stacked. When I got my first house and it was in the process of getting built, I was able to go back home with my mom and them until the house got finished being built. The doors have always been open for me to come anytime I needed it. And I thank God for that. Don't ever let nobody, whether or not it's this internet, people you around, make you forget the blessings that God gave you. If you get along with your parents and y'all don't have no issues and you stay at home and it's comfortable for you at that moment.
That's a video, guys. I'm just here also to share my 2 cents, like what I think about today's video. Why adult children are moving back in with their parents. Let's be real for a moment. Rent is high. Groceries are expensive, and don't even get me started on gas or health insurance. In most major cities, Affording your own apartment on a single income, especially if you're just starting out in your career, is almost impossible. Even people with good jobs are finding themselves unable to afford basic necessities. So, what do? They move back in with their parents, and honestly, it makes sense. There used to be this stigma that if you move back home as an adult, it meant you failed as an adult. But in today's economy, more and more people are realizing that financial independence doesn't look like it used to, and there's no shame in doing what you need to do to survive or even just to do group. In fact, sometimes moving back in with your parents is the smartest financial move you can make. For many families, this shift has required a mental adjustment. Parents raise their kids to be independent, to fly the net, and make a life for themselves. But now the adult children are coming back not because they don't want independence, but because they can't afford it right now. That's a huge change in dynamic. Some parents welcome it, others struggle with it, and adult children feel the pressure too. Nobody wants to feel like a burden, but that's the reality it is. Something has to give. Let's also talk about housing for a moment. The price of renting a one-bedroom apartment has gone up in many cities. In some places, you're paying over 50% of your income just for a roof over your head. And the utilities, internet, food, and transportation, and they're barely scraping by. How are young adults supposed to save for a home, a wedding, or even an emergency fund if most of their paycheck is gone before they can even touch it? We have to understand that this is not about laziness, it's about systems that are not working for young people. Student loan debt is crashing, salaries have not kept up with inflation, and job security shaky at best. We are living in a time where people with college degrees are working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. So going back home is sometimes the only way to catch their breath and plan ahead or start over. Some people are quick to judge, especially older generations. You hear the usual like when I was your age, I had a house and a family. Sure, back then, a house didn't cost 5 times your annual salary, and groceries didn't eat up half of your paycheck. Things have changed. The cost of living has risen dramatically, but wages have not. That's not a personal failure, that's an economic crisis. But this is not just about a financial issue, it's emotional too. Adult children are moving back in with their parents, often feel a loss of independence. They feel they've taken a step backwards, indefinite it's temporarily, and that can affect their self esteem. At the same time, parents might feel like they're failing to raise their kids in adulthood when really they're providing a safety net during hard times. Some families thrive under the new arrangement. They grow closer, share responsibilities, and save money together. Others struggle with boundaries and odd patterns. It's not easy to go from being a self sufficient adult to once again live under your parents' roof. Maybe with curfew, maybe with rules you have not had to follow in years. And for the parents, it's not easy to balance between supporting their children and giving them space to be adults. There's also a cultural component here. In many cultures, it's completely normal for adult children to live at home until they marry or even beyond. Mount General household are seen as a sign of family unity and strength. In the West, through independence, is strong value that living with your parents a certain age is often seen as shameful, but the mindset is starting to shift slowly. Social media doesn't help. People feel pressure to post about their new apartment, expensive vacations, or luxury lifestyle, even when they are drowning in debt. This creates a sense of comparison that's not only unfair but deeply harmful. The truth is, a lot of those lifestyles are built on credit cards, not income, and the people quietly living with their parents to save money. They might be in much better financial positions 5 years down the road that one pretending to have it all together right now. Let's also acknowledge the psychological toll. Moving back home can feel like failure, even when it's the most logical decision. People might feel like they're giving up on independence or not living up to expectations. Okay, and the other thing, but we need to start reframing this. Choosing to take care of your finances, to reset and to rebuild is not a failure. It's a strategy. It's a resilience. There's also a silver lining to all this. Moving back home gives adult children a chance to save money. It gives them time to pay debt off, build credit, maybe even start a side hustle or give back to school with the right mindset and boundaries. It can actually be a powerful stepping stone, not a setback at a setup for something better. Of course, it's not always easy. There's definitely expectations that parents have about their children. At the same time, society needs to take a hard look at why this is happening. Why are so many people struggling to afford basic life living expenses? Why is home ownership out of reach for entire generation? Why is student loan debt still such a massive issue? Until we address these structure problems, adult children moving back home will continue to be growing trend, not a rare exception. Let's also not forget that the pandemic changed a lot. A lot of people lost jobs, changed careers, or have to make unexpected moves. The rise of remote jobs don't need to be in a big city for a job. Why not live somewhere more affordable? Like home. It's practical and sometimes just a plain necessary. It's important that we start normalizing this conversation. Moving back in with your parent is not a sign of failure. It's a reflection of the times we're living in. It's a reflection of how tough times things have for adult children. So thank you for watching.